Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess, the podcast for anyone starting over, navigating a new chapter, or rewriting their story. I'm Heather Morgan, and if you've ever thought to yourself, what am I doing with my life? You're in the right place. Here we take the lessons in the messes, reframe the hard moments, and remember that even the wildest stories always work out. I'm so happy you're here. Now let's wander this wild mess together. I spent a really long time trying to figure out my life, just like most of us. And the wildest part is the most peace I ever felt came when I finally stopped trying to. Welcome to Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. I am so happy you're here. Well, hello and welcome to the podcast. If you found your way here, I know that you were meant to, and I'm so glad you're spending this time with me. It's wild to think about. For over 100 episodes, I've been talking about trusting your path no matter how messy it looks. And I truly still believe that. There is going to be messes on our journey, and all of us are going to have to navigate things that we probably would have never asked for in our lives or chosen. But the wild thing is I understand why we need to trust our path no matter how messy it looks a little differently than I did before. And I trust my path because I trust the one leading it. Now, as I talk through this episode that I know is probably meant for your ears, I just want to preface that I'm not here to tell you what you have to believe. I'm here to tell you the truth about what has happened in my life, because this podcast has been about honesty and sharing my journey. And so it just wouldn't be authentic of me to share my story without talking about God, because He has entered my life in a way that I never really could have anticipated. And so today we're going to talk a little about why I'm leaning on Him when I think about trusting my plan. And if you've been listening along, I think you know you're here because life has started over. You're searching for answers about life fulfillment. How do we do this? How do I become the person I want to be? How do I create the life I want to create? And so many times in our life, especially after big starting over moments like divorce, why I started this and what led me down that path, any big life changes that can kind of trigger these moments of almost like rock bottom, or you wanting to rethink, what does this all mean? And I think back a lot about just losing, my father in my 20s and then getting divorced in my 30s. Like there's just been so many things in my life that have just been really big life quakes. And now as this like grown woman, I'm here going, okay, I've got to figure this out because I've had some really hard things happen in the last, the first half of my life. And I want to figure things out moving forward. And as I've talked on this podcast, it's about personal growth and healing. And some of the episodes that have hit people the most is just knowing that I'm going through hard things and I'm still keeping this positive perspective. And I'm so grateful that I had that to share. But there were times when it was really, really hard. Even, I talked about it before, manifestation. I've studied so much neuroscience. I've studied and read so many self-help books and about mindset. And that's my jam. And I loved it, not even just for me, but I loved to share what I found and what I was searching for. And the interesting part about all that is, as I'm searching for the answers and the easy button, which I wish was there, which it is, but it isn't, right? What I learned is I was looking for something. I just didn't know that what I really would find peace in was finding God. And I almost just kind of stumbled along the answer I wasn't really looking for. And I'll tell you something about anyone on any kind of spiritual journey. No matter where you are in your life, in your journey with your spirituality, there's a moment that if you haven't chose to believe in God or pick up the Bible or go to church, it's available. There's no one that doesn't know about church or the Bible, or at least a high level understanding of what they think God is, right? So if you were looking to find the answers, you would have picked up the Bible. I knew growing up Mormon with a father that had, and parents, I don't want to just say my father, but I talked to him more about the religion. My family was very much believers in Jesus Christ and all of that. And I just had way too many questions. And if you listen to the episodes I talk about growing up Mormon, I have a couple, you'll know that even in those episodes, I was a skeptic. I just think that I think so logically that so much couldn't make sense. And obviously that's why I'm searching for answers in neuroscience and then manifestation. I'm reading like Neville Goddard. If you haven't heard of him, you could look him up. I'm searching everywhere. And even he like refers, I don't know that he was necessarily Christian, but he refers to the Bible as like instructions of life. And when I started like thinking about that and studying like the nervous system as well, and how you regulate your nervous system, and there was a lot of my inner work that was taking me in all these different directions. And I realized that like even the 10 commandments, I tied them all back to like nervous system regulation, like how in abiding by those things, it would be best for your nervous system, honestly. And then I started thinking, is there something here? Like everything I'm learning is this like instructions for how to live life in alignment and in happiness and enjoy the most. But the piece I wasn't really tying at the time to that was a relationship with Jesus, because I just didn't know what that looked like. And I remember there was a night when I had started trying to just unpack it. And there's this part of me that's like, let's be logical here. And then this other part of me that just was thinking logically, like, there's a lot of people in this world that don't believe in God, a lot. And there was a point when I said I was agnostic, right? I didn't know. I didn't ever say there wasn't, but I could never be sure. And so I wanted to call it what it was for me. And I thought to myself, there's a lot of people that don't believe in God, don't believe in Jesus. But you know what? I hear almost every person does when you hear those stories about their life's about to end, or there's something really bad ends up happening in their life and they don't have anywhere else to turn. That's when they pray. That's when they go to God. But if they completely didn't believe that it would do anything, they didn't believe there could possibly be, why would they still seek that out? Why would that be the last name they call in the time where they think it's over? Why would that be your last cry for help? Why would in your biggest moment of weakness, would you cry to something that you don't believe in? And that question had me really thinking. And then, if I had not already experienced enough of my really low moments, I hit another, and God met me there. And I can't say the clear moment other than there was one moment where I saw this flash of what life would look like if there wasn't a God. And it was dark, and it was sad, and it was a moment that I didn't want to hold on to any longer than was shown to me. And I thought, I remember I just started profusely crying because I was trying to convince myself, wait, there's just no way that could be. But then when I was convincing myself that maybe it isn't true, I didn't like what I saw when I saw what it looked like without God part of this world and part of my world. And I know everyone gets to places on their own journey because I couldn't have been convinced 5 years ago that I would have this heart posture that I do, that I would literally be seeing God rearrange things in my life, close doors, open other ones, change my desires. Not because I was trying, because when I would talk about the identity work, oh, I just want to stop doing something. And I know everyone's journey is different. So I'm not going to say you believe in God and then he makes it easy for everyone, or he takes, the toxic desires from your heart, because I know everyone has a different path. But for me, there was so many things that he was just like removing and became no longer who I am. And it wasn't even me trying to change it. It was him saying, this isn't for you, and taking the desire away. And I know that sounds, to someone who's just like, okay, that would sound so wild, but probably not any or wilder than the people that would listen to me yap about manifestation, because it all ticks and ties to, again, like back to neuroscience and energy. And there is so much there, right? But God designed that. And even through the Bible, I studied everything about the RAS, reticular activating system, and how the mind and brain works. And then I started reading about, okay, well, the happiest people in life, a lot of them believe in God, majority. There was a large percentage. I can't remember the stats. And I thought, well, why is that? Like, what is that? Is that God? Is that? But even if you think about it, the stress levels, when you can let it go and let God, the thing that was hardest in my life was trying to carry the burden of everything on my own. I was like, it's just me. And I remember crying on my floor, like, you took my dad. I'm here alone. I have nothing. Like, not I have nothing literally, but I felt so isolated, so alone. I didn't want to be angry, but I wanted to be honest. I was like, there's no way that this could be how a God would want it to. But I didn't understand it yet. And I realized two things can be true. You could not completely understand the things that you have to experience in life and still know that God loves you and he's good. And I think that's what makes it hard, because we want to our logical minds just want to think one way. We want to see proof before we go for faith. And I learned that even when it comes to identity, everything I was studying about all of that. And even if you think about quantum physics, like, you have to act as if you have to become before the reality catches up. And that is just like faith. You have to put faith in God, whether you see it immediately or not. And most of the time you don't. But who you become in that gap of like staying faithful is so important. And I realized that in so many other things, because I love to piece things together. I'm a big picture person. So I think about it. Even I might have mentioned I'm going back to the gym, right? And I got a personal trainer for a while, and I thought about it. And it's like, when you go to the gym, you've seen it happen for other people, right? So you're kind of like, yeah, if I go to the gym consistently, you see those big transformations, like it works. But you've really got to have faith that you can consistently show up, because you going one or two times isn't going to change your physique. And you'll go and you're like, nothing's happening, right? And you won't see it right away. And a lot of people just be like, okay, it doesn't work, I'm quitting. Or not even it doesn't work because they've seen it in other people. Oh, it won't work for me. We always love to just find excuses to go back to our comfort, go back to how we've always been. But the gym taught me, no, if you keep going, eventually the fruits of your labor will be shown. Your strength you'll be stronger. When you once picked up 15 pounds and it felt heavy, now you're lifting 25, whatever. Numbers are irrelevant. Don't come at me. All right. I'm getting strong. But I'm saying you slowly see the progress of things happening in your life when you trust that if I continue down this path, I will see the fruits. And that's how faith works. And but you don't, in this relationship with God, I realize I don't do it just for the fruits. I do it for the love because I want to abide to living in the way that is, I feel best in love and kindness, moving through the world the way that I felt like my father always was. And it's crazy because I think about his faith a lot because we've talked about it. And, you know, he never forced it on me, his beliefs, right? And I feel like growing up Mormon, if you know, you know, a lot of people, you know, a lot of families, it feels like, okay, you have to be Mormon, you have to go on your mission, you have to do these things, you have to, you know, keep an image. And so you really end up having this like non-belief, but performative Christianity. And I never wanted to be a performative Christian. I didn't strive for that. You know, I remember even when I stopped going to church a little around high school, and I still was listening to the rules. I think I talked about this before, but I wasn't really like claiming Mormon. And then in my 20s, when I started drinking, people would be like, "Oh, you're Mormon," and I would never say I was because I was like, Mormons don't drink. And I realized that it wasn't because I was like, oh, look at me. And I know people still sin and I'm not judging that. But for me, it was like, I can't just say I'm something that I don't really believe in. And so even when people were like, oh, are you Mormon? I'd say I grew up Mormon. And then if people were like, oh, are you Christian? I mean, are you Christian? I'd just be like, oh, you know, I'm spiritual. Because I didn't really want to title something that I wasn't fully embodying. But I realize now that I'm like trying to navigate this new truth that like I'm a Christian, which you think growing up Mormon, it wouldn't be weird to say. But I found a love in something that I never thought that I would. And I know it's the path I'm meant to be on. And I just want you to know that I'm glad you're still here listening to me just be honest about this journey for me, because I didn't know when I hit record that my faith would be transformed over all this time. And I finally am at a place where it's like, okay, I'm letting go and letting God. And what that actually means to me is that I'll take the next step that I know I'm supposed to take without demanding that God shows me steps 2 through 45, because I trust that I just need to take the next right step. I pray, I listen, I move, I pay attention, and I trust. And then I have to leave some room for him to show me. And I think often that's the part that seems, I like read something that said if it's not from God, it feels rushed. It feels in a hurry. You have to make the decision fast, fast, fast. But God's like a quiet voice. And that's, I mean, if I tick and tie, and my pastor talked about this, if you can think of the most loving father in the world, and especially because I've had such a loving father, I can feel exactly that in my relationship with Jesus. And it's literally like that person that just wants the absolute best for you. It's not to like, oh, all these rules and you're a sinner and it's not like that. And I think the way it was so easy for me that it's crazy it never clicked before is that that's exactly how my dad was. I could have made any mistake in the book and he would have loved me through it. And he would lead by his loving example. And that's all I want to do. And so I'm not asking you to believe as I believe or pick up a Bible. Although I think it's it's a great read. But I'm just saying that I'm here to love you through it. All of it. All the messes, all the starting overs, because I know, just like I've spoken before, like I thought starting over after my divorce would be a one-time shot, and I have changed and started over 7 or 8 times now. And I probably will continue to evolve, as I hope you do on this journey. And this is me being vulnerable with you. Like I feel, because I feel like if you're listening and you know me and you know my heart, I just have to be honest. I'm going to be bold in my faith. And this isn't like, okay, I'm going to become louder and preach at everybody all the time and like turn this podcast into something it isn't. But I have to stop playing small about something that has profoundly changed me just because I'm worried about how someone might receive it. And if my purpose is to shine a light on the messy parts of the journey so somebody else can see their way through, I can't leave out the thing that turned the light on for me. And I'm telling you all of this with just the biggest open heart and so much love to everyone listening, because I know our lives are going to be filled with starting over stories and moments we feel rock bottom, moments we don't understand, things that we would never ask for. And I want you to have a place to feel seen in that, because I've been lost. I've questioned everything. I've started over too, and I'll probably have to start over again. And I didn't know what was next either. And some days I still don't. But I don't have to know exactly where the path ends to trust where I'm being led. And either do you. So again, I say to trust your path no matter how messy it looks, because God doesn't make mistakes. And unfortunately, sometimes the things that happen are painful, and we need to take the heaviness off. Because when I was trying to unpack everything by myself, I don't think I could have survived without the love of God. And now I look forward to reading the Word, to spending time understanding the relationship that truly means more in my life than any other. And I believe God can meet us all in the mess, the detours, the things we had wished had gone differently, and then take us somewhere meaningful, because He did that for me. He saved me at my lowest point. He showed me the strength I needed to go on. And I'm forever grateful for that. It's like, think about having that like one friend that was there at the moment that you're like, I will never forget that you were here. I am forever changed by your grace, your love. That moment you were there for me. It's like that. Like I'm not giving that up. I'm this is the best friend I could ever have. Best relationship I've ever been in. And I just can't be quiet about it. So as I wrap this up about trusting God's plan, wow, if you've listened, just be real with me. If you listen from the beginning, you're going, what is happening? And if you haven't heard the earlier episodes, you'll know why this seems wilder than the mess that you thought this podcast would be. But I'm going to, give some space for this, as well as I, reached 100 episodes, and I'm so grateful for that milestone. And I'm moving into a little bit of a 6-week break with the podcast to work on some things and spend some time trusting in God's plan. And I'm not going anywhere, of course. And I'm going to bring back 6 episodes all about starting over that were some of my most listened to, my most comments, that listeners really resonated with. So I'll package those up and repurpose those over the next 6 weeks so that you can kind of listen to those and not miss my voice. But if you haven't listened to all of them from the beginning, this is your time to binge because it really is a story. And the evolution of this girl now or woman to the messy one at the beginning, I think you'll just hear the healing in my voice. And that was God. I tried to do the healing by myself. I tried to do all the inner work. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing that I learned or that I did in that journey to finding God that was probably not, it was probably all necessary, right? There's good things in a lot of the self-help and inner work I was doing. But I was never going to find this level of peace without finding God. And I know that now because I searched. So I'm going to now leave a little room for God to show me what's next for this podcast, for everything. And because I'm fully trusting Him. And I realize that maybe trusting God's plan sometimes means taking the next step, but maybe other times it means not rushing to fill the space before He has a chance to. So I'm going to let Him do His thing. I'm going to send you all the love and light in the world and know that there's a journey for all of us. He has a plan for each of us. And wherever you are in your journey, you're loved. You're not behind. You're not doing it wrong. If you don't feel this certain way and you're like, why? There's nothing wrong with you. I've been there. I felt that too. But I will tell you, sometimes you have to open your heart to let things come in. You have to be open to receiving it. I talked about that even in the identity, right? That even comes to anything from our life. And that comes with building a relationship with anyone. You have to open yourself up to it. Put the fear down and have a little faith. It all translates. So until we meet again at the end of September, you'll get some other episodes that will be really helpful for starting over and your identity. It all ticks and ties. It all is coming together for you. So I just want you to continue to trust your path, no matter how messy it looks. And if you don't know where the path is going yet, maybe leave a little room for God to show you. This was Wandering the Wild Mess with Heather Morgan. You matter. Thank you for wandering the wild mess with me. If today's episode helped you see your story a little differently, I'm so glad. Make sure to share it with someone else who might need it. Keep listening for more lessons, reframes, and reminder that your path is unfolding exactly as it should. Until then, keep trusting the mess.